in business standards below the age of 30. Nominations are invited from business standard staffers.
It's indeed a very humbling experience to be here amongst all of you today evening. As usual with people in government, all of us do carry a prepared text along with us, and we would take that as read. May I commence by congratulating Ms. Sushmi Dey, her two other colleagues, Ms. Shelly Walia, Ms. Deblina Sen-Gupta, for being the worthy recipients of the Seema Nazareth Award for Excellence in Print Journalism this year. I was listening very intently to the acceptance remarks of Sushmi. And though I have not had the privilege of reading her work in great detail, but as someone who grew up on a hospital campus, I can very well empathize with the critical need for a very in-depth analysis of the healthcare sector in India. My experience as a public representative has also made me cognizant and sensitive to the fact that access to healthcare is possibly one of the most critical challenges which India faces as it goes into the next trajectory of its growth paradigm. Our public health spaces unfortunately have not been able to keep pace with the growing demands that even a developing society needs to provide in terms of healthcare to its people. When you juxtapose it against the increasing costs of private healthcare provision, it makes you shudder at times, because more often than not, on a, if not daily, a weekly basis, you come across these absolute horror stories of how a stint in hospital, a private hospital, can absolutely destroy the economic basis of even a middle-income family. There are serious ethical issues involved in clinical trials, issues which the Indian Council of Medical Research has, through a set of guidelines, been trying to resolve. But unfortunately, we are still very far from the standards which possibly should benchmark our endeavor in this field. And that's why it is extremely critical, as we give access to multinationals in order to even use the infrastructure of our public hospitals for clinical trials, and I have nothing against that, because I do believe that if science has to progress, if more and more proficient means have to be found of treating disease in an economical manner, this is something required. But it also entails a very robust and a very vigorous oversight to see that undue and unnecessary exploitation, which has manifested itself over the last decade and a half, is somehow contained and brought to a halt. So therefore, I compliment you for your work, and I do hope that you would keep up with your endeavors in this field, and we would continue to read and benefit from it as we go along our daily endeavors. It's usual for ministers of information and broadcasting to pontificate and deliver homilies to journalists, especially at award functions. And I absolutely don't intend doing that. But the only one thing that I would like to flag is that there is a serious need for some sober introspection within the larger media fraternity to really find that golden mean between a responsible discourse and a corrosive discourse. And I say this with full sense of responsibility, because we have in our midst the very eminent former Deputy National Security Advisor of India. And if you look around in our neighborhood and the kind of challenges that we face, if the next 2 decades is the space for consolidation that we have, so that India is able to punch to its weight in the international arena, the one thing which can become a drag, or unfortunately is becoming a drag, is at times the very corrosive nature of discourse, which has marked our public spaces. And it's not about journalistic discourse. It's about the manner in which we conduct ourselves in Parliament, the manner in which we conduct ourselves in the legislatures. And as India evolves, grows, you have a much more impatient younger generation with the empowerment of tools of information dissemination available at their thumbnail. There has to be a certain amount of reason and rationale which must start benchmarking the manner in which we conduct ourselves publicly. Over the past 5 or 7 years, social media, or new media as we know it, has completely changed the contours of our public discourse. We had a situation in 1990 when you had one public broadcaster. By 2013, we have 853 plus. In addition to that, everybody who's on a social networking site is a broadcaster in his own right. So therefore, from the leaders of the industry, from the pioneers, And that's where the role of print becomes extremely germane. This process of introspection really needs to begin. I'm told, I'm new to this job, and one of the reasons why we have a huge degree of sensationalism is primarily because the revenue models in the industry are skewed. The entire attempt at digitization has been really an exercise in trying to build those revenue models to see that the industry becomes transparent, becomes self-sustaining, and does not really have to walk that extra mile in order to get that extra eyeball, which translates into an extra ounce of advertising. But as we go along doing that, with the participation of all the stakeholders, I think simultaneously a debate, a discourse, and especially a discourse led by those who are going to inherit the world of journalism, I think would be a very meaningful contribution. I once again would like to congratulate Business Standard and, of course, the parents of Seema Nazareth. I think these occasions are extremely solemn, and they're also, as I commenced by saying, extremely humbling, because they remind us both of responsibility as well as the fact that there are people in this world who do find the time to acknowledge good work where they see it. Thank you very much.